goes on to say, so is the kingdom of God, as if a man casts seed into the ground. You know, the thing about seed is that as long as you cast it into the ground, at some point in time, you're going to look out your backyard and it's going to come up. But it requires you to do something. You can't just have seed.
All right now.
You remember in the past, I've talked about my grandmother who was from the South, in the city, had a big old garden. And the interesting thing was that the way her house was seated on its property, the garden was not in the backyard, it was on the side of the house. So that means everybody who drove up and down this busy street could see her garden. And I've talked about in the past how I noticed that my grandmother would have packets of seed sitting on the windowsill. And sometimes there would be packets that would be, she forgot about them, and they would have been left there. Pastor Charlie has seed in her purse, y'all. She just handed me this seed right here that she's carrying around with her. This is a mustard seed. This is a mustard seed. It's in this packet here. But as long as this seed stays in this plastic packet, 2 years from now, if Pastor Charlie would have pulled this out of her purse, it would still look like this. As I noticed that as long as those packets of seed that my grandmother had sitting on her windowsill were sitting on her windowsill, they remained packets of seed. But I also noticed that every now and then she would look at some of those seeds and say, ooh, I need to go ahead and plant these. And she would take that packet out to her, I can't say backyard because they were country. So she would take that packet out to the side of her yard and she would plant it. And whenever the time, whatever that gestation period happened to have been, at some point in time we would look out in her garden and see the fruit growing up from the sowing of the seed.